future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. You have tuned in to Dr. Judy, WTF, right here in the heart of Hollywood at the Sensei Gower Studios on UBN Radio Network. I am your host, Walt Lusk, and we have Dr. Judy Rosenberg in studio, as always. And this is a call-in show, folks, so if you want to talk about New Year, we're going to take some really interesting and deep perspectives on the New Year. You can call us, and our number is area code 323 843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. And stay tuned because at the end of the show, we always shrink that tune. We take a popular song, and this one's going to be a lot of fun.
Very relevant.
Read the well. They're definitely
all relevant.
I read the words, and then Dr. Judy interprets it from her perspective, and of course the mind map that she's developed. And it was interesting. I was talking to a lady friend of mine today and talking about New Year and resolutions, and she used to live back east. And we don't get this here in the West Coast, Southern California. And she said every season there would be a change, there would be a dramatic change. You know, right, going from like fall to winter and whatnot. And people were kind of renewed every quarter. And we don't get that out here.
No, I used to live back east. Montreal, Canada is the city that I grew up in, and I really do miss the seasons, and there's a sense of renewal every time there's a shift. And so now we're talking about the first phase of the year, which is the winter phase. And right after the new year, we talked about this last time, sustainability and the sustainability of keeping our commitments to New Year's resolutions and how difficult that is and how people sign up for gym membership and then it starts thinning out right about now, right? And also how people make all kinds of New Year's resolutions to stop smoking, lose weight. And it doesn't hold for too long because some of what we sign up for is unsustainable. And
we set the bar too high.
We set the bar too high.
Right.
And I do want to talk about what makes for sustainability as human beings. What makes us sustainable is when we have the right type of emotional ingredients that are downloaded into us, fed to us, nurtured into us. And I talk a lot about this. And Walt, can you put the mind map up for a minute so that people can graphically see what I mean?
Those of you who are listening to us on podcast on Stitcher or on iTunes, or you pull it from the archive here at UBN Radio, you can go to www.drjudywtf.com. And for those of you that are new listeners, WTF stands for What the Freud.
Okay, so one of Freud's brilliant contributions to the field of psychology, is that he pointed out that we repeat things that have traumatized us.
You mean history repeats itself?
Psychological history repeats itself. Okay, and it repeats itself because we want to heal. And what happens to us is when we're blueprinted from our family of origin and we carry the wounds from our family of origin, oftentimes we reenact those wounds in the here and now in relationships. And then what happens is we cause a lot of chaos in our lives in the process of reenacting them.
We are, and we're trying to seek another or better, happier ending to what didn't happen before when we were kids in our childhood. And I'm always for happy endings.
I thought you might say something like that, Walt. Okay, and what Freud meant by happy ending was a cigar is just a cigar. And in this case, what he meant by a happy ending is that we work through all our issues and then we come out the other side and heal all our wounds and live happily ever after. And so...
And yes, it can happen.
with a lot of work. I mean, this is not a free ride. And for those of you who are lucky enough to have had good parenting, and by good parenting, I mean a lot of things. Basically, that you were attuned to, that you had consistent pillars, meaning parents or caregivers that were truly consistently there for you, attuned to your emotional needs. Details of that means that ideally you were breastfed, ideally you were on a consistency schedule, meaning that your needs came before mommy or daddy or caregiver's needs, that you had a sense of safety in the home environment.
Right.
And most people don't get this.
No, one of the things that one of your Judaisms that we're saying so many times is childhood is a hostage situation.
It sure is. And, and you know, where are you going to go? If you don't like what's happening to you, like, good, pack your bags.
Run away from
home. Where are you
home.
going? You know, at 3 months old, at 4 years old, where are you going, right? So what happens is that we're in a situation, and whether we like it or not, and sometimes we don't like it, we've got to stay. And we stay because we're in a hostage situation. And as a result of poor parenting or parenting gone wrong, what happens is we develop what I call the hole in the soul. Okay, so look at panel 1 for a minute, if you would put that up.
Panel 1.
Panel 1, yeah.
Where is it? Here it is. There
Okay.
it is. Again, you go to drjudy.wtf.com and you can check out panel 1. All the panels, actually.
Right, so panel 1 is really the motherboard, pun intended here, because the motherboard is what is the blueprint from the first moment of birth, the relationship with mom. And so if this piece of the of life goes right, then we get all of the emotional nutrients that we need to make ourselves sustainable. But if we don't get the emotional ingredients that we need, then we develop what I call, what we've been talking about, a hole in the soul. And so therefore, when New Year's comes around, right, and we want to sustain all these wonderful new behaviors, it's really, really hard to do, because eating right and not smoking and exercising and all of these things are antithetical to filling the hole in the soul. Because when we're aching from our emotional pain, what we do want to do is we want to overeat, we want to fill it with alcohol, we want to fill it with all kinds of behaviors that are not exactly healthy and self-sustaining. And so we go back to our old ways. But remember, the cause of it, and this is really important for you to understand, the cause is that we have this empty spot that was not properly attuned to, nurtured, mirrored, and so therefore we now are trying for ways of self-medicating. And
you have to remember, folks, that the cause is not your fault.
Thank you.
It simply is... I hate to use the word victim. I don't really like that word, but you are a victim of all the garbage that your parents threw at you. I mean, to give you a classic example, have you ever, when you were a kid, heard the phrase, and you can finish it for me, money does not grow on, that's right, trees, okay?
Right.
So if you ever heard your parents say that, then you develop a belief of lack, and that's going to carry you forward. So in order to have a better part 2 of your life, and I've always said it's not really how you start that matters, it's how you finish that counts. You can't do it by yourself. Judy's got an amazing system through her mind map, and it's very efficient and very effective. You can hear our voice, you can call her, and do it on the phone, or you can do it on Skype. She's got an office in Beverly Hills and Sherman Oaks, and spots are filling up fast.
So just to clarify what we're talking about here, we are not the cause of part 1 of our life.
Absolutely
that means that whatever is fed into us is fed into us. We are very spongy when we're born, meaning we're taking
sponges.
Everything in.
Absolutely.
And whatever comes in filters through and infiltrates into the fiber of our being is the blueprint that's laid down in there. Now, does that mean that it is what it is? No, absolutely not. That's why people go into treatment, because in the course of the treatment, you've got to undo the old blueprint, and you've got to
replace it with something else.
But before you replace it with something else, you have to let out the energy, the poison behind it. So it's not just cognitive behavior or behavior modification. And this is a very important part of the system that I developed. Vital point is that you can't just gloss over it and stick affirmations over it or medicate over it.
Put a Band-Aid on it.
It's not going to work. What you have to do is you have to express the repressed feelings around it so that the poison can be released. And once it's released and the cleansing has happened, then as some of you know, the universe abhors a vacuum. And now that you're clean, the new information, which with guidance, with wisdom, with careful recoding, can be ingested, digested, and manifested in a new way.
Absolutely right.
So,
and then you know what'll happen?
What'll happen?
The audience, got really thrilled.
I feel so esteemed by that. I can't. I'm speechless. So this is a call-in show, you guys.
It is a call-in show. Oh my gosh, Dr. Judy's speechless. Quick, call in.
Please,
and the number is area code 323-843-2826. What I wanted to start with is, in terms of talking about the hole in the soul and New Year's resolutions, and we talked about this last week. It's been proven that only 8% of anyone's New Year's resolutions, it actually sticks. So the odds are just astronomically huge that it's not. And if you do it through willpower, as we talked last week, ain't gonna happen, folks. And if you're stress and willpower don't work.
You know, back in the 1980s, I started a company called Habit Breakers, and I dealt with smokers and overeaters. And at that time, I concentrated a great deal on habit breaking and habit making, which is very appropriate for this show. And what I learned is that it takes about a month to form a new habit.
Yeah, it does.
And a new habit
every day.
Every day.
If you miss a day, you got to start over. The clock resets.
Yeah, it's just a consistency thing.
Very
and so when you consistently practice a new habit, eventually it'll go into the no-brainer category of your brain, which is the right brain function, meaning that you don't have to think about
automatic.
It. Automatic, right.
It's like a GPS. It kind of directs you where you want to go. You just follow the bouncing ball.
Right. But it takes a while to develop that. And so at the beginning of the year, people are not on automatic, and they're desperately trying to form a groove or pathway that's the new habit. And there's a lot of resistance that takes place during this period of time.
And along that, the issue for this one article is the one question that will revolutionize your New Year's resolution. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, really? Yep, one question. Because, when it comes to creating and change, most of us are really good at completing the first step of the process, but, envisioning what we want and trying to continue with it is another matter. And the question is simply this: what is it in me that is holding me back?
Okay, so that's a really deep question.
Right. What is it in me that's holding me back?
Okay, so that question, in the context of really self-reflecting and looking within yourself to examine what's the resistance. Why is it that you don't move forward? And it's not just simply, well, you're lazy, or you're unmotivated, or whatever glib answer we want to give. It's that oftentimes what is holding us back? Do you want to give some ideas about that? What do you think is holding us back?
Well, for starters, I talk about in the article here is, and I learned something a long time ago, is I call about wishing. If we wish for something, it really isn't going to happen. It's out there. You wish upon a star.
Yeah.
And the phrase I learned was wish, want, need, got. Wish, want, need, got.
Okay.
Meaning, let's say that you wish you had a new set of tires, right? Okay. They're getting kind of flat, or you want some new tires that look nicer on your car. That's nice. Well, then you change it to I want a new set of tires. Okay. Well, I don't have the money, and I'm going to have to save up the money, and I want them, right? Well, then the next one is need. You've gone from wishing and wanting to needing. You drive down the road and 2 of your tires go flat and they can't be fixed.
Right.
You're beyond the wish point.
Yeah.
You're beyond the wanting point.
Absolutely.
You're sitting on the dead of the road with your car can't move because you need tires. That's the issue. You now need tires. So whatever it's going to take, you're going to find the money to buy new tires. So it's wish, want, need, God.
And I want to put it in the context of when people come to see me in therapy. Do you think they are in the wish stage, the want stage, the need stage, or the got stage?
Well, we know they ain't got the gots. They ain't got a nothing. So
Right.
not the got stage. I'm going to say probably more in the wishing and the wanting.
No, actually, they're in the needing stage.
Really? So
they've
they've come to the situation where they realize
they've got the flat tire. Okay,
they're flat.
You know, occasionally I'll get people into the therapeutic process because they want something, they wish for something, and they have goals and they want to be proactive. But that's really rare. Most people come to see me when they need something. You know, I need to fix my marriage. If I don't fix my marriage, my husband or my wife is going to divorce me. You know, I need to deal with my anxiety. At this point, my anxiety is keeping me from functioning on the job. I really, really need to solve my issues around alcohol because at this point I have 3 DUIs, I can't drive, and my boss is going to fire me.
I'm about ready to lose my job.
So people come to see me in panels 4, 5, 6, which, if you go back to the mind map, is all about chaos, and the defenses are no longer working. Okay, the tire's been blown and now they're breaking down, and so they have 2 choices. They can either break down, bottom out, or they can break through.
I mean, remember, folks, it doesn't make any difference whether you're driving a Ferrari or you're driving a 1967 used Bug.
Right.
Okay, if you don't have tires on the car, you're stuck.
Right. Right.
The second thing to talk about here is outcome. Okay, you need to define the outcome that your wish you're looking for. What is it that you really want? And a better way that I interpret this is the why. Okay, usually people get really hung up on the how. Well, if the why is big enough, the how will happen. You don't know how it's going to happen, but you really, really want this. It can be called a dream. Okay, so why do you want this? What is the obstacle that's coming over this? And if the why is big enough, it doesn't matter what the obstacle is. Darn it, you're gonna plow right through it.
You know, when you were talking about the why, I kept thinking desire.
Right.
The desire. We are led by our desires.
We are. It's with emotion. If it doesn't have any oomph and any emotion attached to it, it's really not the what you want or what you need. And you're not and obstacles are going to come into play. And why are obstacles going to come into play? Because it's something new. It's something out of your routine. How are muscles built? Let's say you want to go to the gym and you're working out at the gym. The muscles are built through resistance. You got to really pump it up and have a little bit of pain because the muscle's being built. Well, it's built through resistance. If you don't have any resistance, it's not going to happen. So you hit obstacles, you hit resistance. You know, I really didn't want it that bad.
And if you don't have desire, then there's no passion and there's no sustainability. And I've come up against this in my own life where I've worked for companies, worked on jobs where I had absolutely no passion or desire. And I find that I'm very fortunate in that what I do and who I am is completely in alignment, and
we hope we're going to get to that.
Be my authentic
self.
We're
hopefully going to touch on that in a later part of the show. And this is a call-in show, folks. We are listening to Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud, here on UBN Radio Network. And if you want to get on the couch with Dr. Judy, you sure can. All you can do is call us at 833-843-2826. And we're talking about New Year's resolutions and New Year goals and how and why they will or won't happen. So, and the last one here is plan. You know, if you don't have a plan to deal with obstacles when they arise, and you've got you're tempted to reach that last donut, then you're going to remind yourself a special reward of avoiding the dessert for a week. Have some plans of how to do that. Preset. Because another thing is I call it situational ethics. You're going to be ethical whatever the situation is. No, you got to be a little bit more definite and purposeful and desirous of what you want and how to get there.
And just to really reiterate, this particular theme that we're talking about is about sustainability.
Yep,
so how do we build sustainability? Repetition, developing habits by repeating things over a process, having the desire so that whatever is motivating you to do the shift in behavior, the shift in attitude or whatever is going to have fuel behind it. It's going to have a powerful intention behind it.
Yep.
Just powerful consciousness behind it.
Absolutely. So remember, folks, it's what is it in me that's holding me back? And so that probably might be a more important question than what you want. Because if you don't address what's holding you back, you're going to be held back.
So we talk a lot about panel 3, which is our core belief. And when we have a negative core belief, it holds us back. When we believe we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not lovable enough, we're not worthy, then that particular core belief, which is born out of the injury of the disconnect from the first phase of life, because that's how it's showing up. What is it in me what was the question? What is it in me that?
What is it in me that's holding me back?
Okay, so
it's really a hole in the soul.
Right, it's the hole in the soul.
Yep.
Okay, so it's the same answer. When we don't have the emotional ingredients that feed us, then we don't have from which we can manifest the best of our best. I call that the shadowed part of ourselves, the big I, which is I call the authentic, full, manifested self, which is the nurtured I, okay, the nurtured self versus the self that is now reduced because it's been injured, it's been crippled, and now we're belittled. Literally, we're little, and so what holds us back is that we've been reduced, and so now comes part 2 of our lives. Okay, so great, childhood is a hostage situation. We've been injured, and so now what? Now it's our responsibility to heal. Because it comes back down to self-reflection and self-correction, and this is where we do have the power. This is where we become the cause. This is where we can take proactive measures to take inventory on about what didn't work for us in the past, and get the necessary, whether it be therapeutic help or getting yourself into some kind of a support system or whatever it takes for you to clean the obstacles from the past so that you can now move forward into part 2 of your life and do something that we speak a lot of, which is recode yourself.
Get rid of the viruses, reboot yourself, and recode yourself.
Recode, yeah, right.
And again, it is no man or woman is an island. If you're looking at yourself and going, gosh, why is it I always start here and don't get through whatever, mm-hmm, or why is it I'm in a relationship and I date the same guy, the same gals? It's because your encoding, your programming is messed up, and the only way that you're going to do that is actually get to the point where you need to change and you're willing to go through a little bit of pain to have a happier ending and have more, mm-hmm, continuous and long-lasting joy in your life.
Right, and you made a point earlier that we are not an island. We are wired to connect.
We're totally wired to connect.
Right. Yesterday I was speaking to a couple that is going to be starting couples therapy with me, and we were talking about how necessary it is for them or anybody to have an outside perspective, because we can know what we know, we can even know what we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. I know. And I don't know. And the point is...
Well, just let me know what you know when you don't know, okay?
Okay. Let me digest. Let me ingest that for a minute. And the point is that there are so many areas of our lives that we have blind spots. And I'm writing about this in the book that I'm forever writing, which will be finished. And Walt, I do want to thank you very much for staying up late at night and helping me edit and giving me feedback. It's so precious to me. And seriously, for those of you listening, there really is a book that's being written about this whole system, and then you will begin to see how all these dots connect,
all
and
fits together.
All of the things that we've been talking about over the year and a half will really be laid out very clearly, very cleanly for you, so that you can understand how to go from the process of identifying the problem, dismantling the problem, and paradigm shifting into solution. And one of
I
the
think
things,
it's going to be a life-changing book. I really do. I think
thank you.
It's along the lines of, if you remember the book many moons ago, The Road Less Traveled by Scott M. Peck.
Well, he's one of my heroes.
Yeah,
so if I even get close to being having the honor to help people shift to that degree, yeah, okay. So,
and that's my own opinion. But I've read part of the book. It's going to be phenomenal.
I really appreciate that a lot. And one of the things that I'm writing about is this concept of not knowing, of really
the unknown,
the blind spot. So what's therapy? What's honest, rigorous feedback by somebody who cares, somebody who knows, somebody who has information and wisdom that you don't know. In order for us to grow, we have to be open systems. Yeah, that's sustainable.
And we have to be able to have somebody else point out our blind spots.
Exactly.
We don't know them.
Right.
If I've got a big cancerous wart on my back, I'm never going to see it.
Right, and you don't know that you don't know that.
I don't.
And it takes an outside perspective for somebody to show that to you. And when they show that to you, that could be life-saving.
Absolutely.
Okay, same concept.
Yes.
If somebody shows you something that you didn't even know that you didn't even know, then that can paradigm shift
and change your life.
Your entire life.
Absolutely. And we've done a show in the past, and you can go through our archives, about good and bad therapy, good and bad therapists. Well, I'm not here to pick on them, but the point is, if you're in therapy and you're dealing with the same stuff, and it's a year, 2 years down the road, and you're just rehashing the same old stuff.
And how does that make you feel, Walt?
Like, what the heck am I doing this for, right? The real reason is, it boils down to the questions that the therapist is asking you. If you don't get the right questions, you can't come up with the right answers, which means you're stuck. So I would just encourage you, no matter where you are, to maybe venture out and maybe check out another therapist. Or call Dr. Judy. But
I do teletherapy.
Yes,
I'm getting more and more requests because I have people from different states that call.
We're on a national radio show, Dr. Judy. You've gotten patients from the show.
Right, I am getting patients from the show, and thank you very much for those of you who have come to see me and who are listening. And
if you want to learn more, just go to drjudywtf.com, and you can learn a lot more about how to get plugged in, learn more about the mind map, and get your life changed. So while we're talking about Hole in the Soul, and want to ask them deep queries and questions, because it really is about the questions that we ask. And we're trying to approach that for the first of the year. I've got some questions that we can ask ourselves that might make us better off, and stop for a moment. And it means taking a moment and just stopping and thinking and pondering, because it really is about the questions you ask. So I've got a few here.
And one other thing I wanted to add to that, which is that you need a system. If the therapy that you're in doesn't have a particular system, then you may want to really reconsider this. There are certain systems that are strong and will lead you through to, and then there are other systems that, there are other therapies that are non-systems that just simply address your particular feeling in the moment, your particular issue in the moment, and my personal feeling and my personal experience, having done therapy for 20 plus years, is that a strong system is going to be sustainable. And learning a system will allow you to think like a shrink, because it's not good enough for the shrink to be the shrink, because at some point, hopefully, you will leave therapy. And at that point, you need to have incorporated a way to see the world, a way to process what you're experiencing in life, so that you can continue to sustain what you've learned.
It's funny. Judy talked about this a little while back. Just we haven't done it on air, but the thing is, if your therapist isn't making you ultimately think like a shrink, right? Thereby you can be your own therapist. But of course, to do that, you have to go through the process. You have to pay the price. You have to go through a little pain, but it's so well worth it at the other end. I've had the privilege of hanging out at the Psychological Healing Center when Dr. Judy's in therapy with patients. And every single time they're laughing, they're having a great time. So Judy really...
By the way, for those of you listening, he's not listening in on the sessions,
no,
but I think you could kind of hear
I'm not listening, but
the laughter.
All I hear is the laughter. I really do. And I don't even know who they are because they come and go, and I don't know who they are. But, it can be fun, but, it's well worth the effort. And if you've made a New Year's resolution to say, hey, I really want to invest in myself. I really want to be better myself. And so I have the more sustainability to be the person I want to be, which we're going to talk about here. I would strongly encourage you to check out drjudywtf.com.
And just one other thing, for those of you who are on a budget, we try not to turn anybody down, and we have therapists who work on a more sliding scale fee basis.
So the first question you might want to ask yourself at the beginning of the year is, what type of human do you want to be? That's pretty deep. We devote a lot of time to creating strategies for our careers and businesses, but often we give little thought to type who we want to be. What are the values that define you? How do you make people feel? Do you make a deposit of energy or a withdrawal? We talk about, or I'm going to hit this probably more than once, you might want to think about people around you, because that's really what it's all about. And you look at the 5 closest people that are around you, whether they're at work or at home, and ask yourself, are they crew or are they cargo? And that will help define you. So the question is, what type of human do you want to be?
And when you are a giving human being, when you're the light to other people, then you get back that light. How many of you out there have experienced being teachers or being involved in going out of your way for a friend or a family member, and knowing the richness of that experience, and being the person that's able to really be the giver?
I had a pastor one time that said, you do not get to give. If you're waiting to give after you get, it's not going to happen. You have to give to get, but you have to give with no expectation of getting. And we talked a little bit over the holidays about volunteering and giving back. So it's give to get as opposed to get to give, right? The next one is, will you keep your heart and mind open? It's like a parachute, right? A parachute is only as good when it's open. If it stays closed, it's not going to do anyone any good. So the point is that the more walls that we build up around ourselves, and granted, we're trying to protect ourselves, which is self-preservation is vital, the further away we're going to get from ourselves and from joy that we can receive.
And remembering that we shut down because of our injuries, our emotional wounds, and so that creates a kind of a post-traumatic stress within us, and then that creates a layer of defense mechanism around us. And so as we start self-reflecting on that and start allowing ourselves to crack open our defense mechanisms even a little bit, and allow in some light, and allow in some new possibilities,
and some love,
right? Then we have that opportunity to break down those walls and have new experiences and recreate something that didn't work for us back in the day.
Because life, let's face it, folks, life can be tough. And, sometimes, when we endure loss, face rejection or disappointments on a regular basis, it can be challenging and get us down. But the point is, we need to stay open and vulnerable and authentic to really have our heart and mind open. The third is the decision you make about making, let me read this again. Is the decision you you're about to make. Oh, I see. It's a misprint. Going to feed your ego or enrich your soul. Okay, so egos have an insatiable appetite.
The black hole, right?
The black hole
Just sucks it dry.
And my definition of ego, EGO, is edging God out. Okay.
How about for the atheist? How about edging goodness out?
Edging
How's
goodness
that?
out. Okay. So, you can use this question as a filter for future decisions. You're going to feed your ego or enrich your soul. The more you feed it, the more you need it. So, try and just maybe keep your ego a little bit in check. It might be difficult, but, I find myself that way. Sometimes I get really pissed and, my ego's in the way. Will you accept mediocrity or strive for greatness? Okay? It takes courage to go after what you want, and we've already talked about wish, want, need, got, and to give your heart fully, to live passionately, and dust off yourself after each setback. Because let me face it, failure is a part of life. But remember, just because you have failed doesn't mean you are a failure. There is a difference.
Or you're one step closer to being where you want to go. Because when you look at the greatest greats, I believe that Thomas Edison had to fail 1,000 times or more
in the light bulb,
right.
he literally attempted and did over 1,000 filaments before he came up with the one that worked for light bulb. And he knew that it wasn't a failure. He just knew he had not received and done and gotten the outcome that he expected.
But imagine if your core belief is that I'm not good enough. Okay, if you carry that core belief with you, what's that going to do to the process of experimenting and continuing on, right? Okay, so if that's your core belief and you fail once and you fail twice and you fail the third time, then you think to yourself, well, I'm not good enough, forget it, abandon the project. However, if your core belief is that I am good enough, we'll just use the opposite just for the hell of it, right? Then those experiments do not become a reinforcement of the core belief that's already incorporated in there and then tearing you down. It just becomes something that these events in life, these so-called failures in life, just become another way to say, oh, that's interesting, that didn't work, let me try something else. So can you see how the core belief that you carry, that I carry, that you, Walt, carry, either limits us or simply can encourage us to forge ahead, no matter whether the outcome is what we want it to be or not. Because
we
really,
all
really
can
an
be,
important concept.
It is. We all can be greater than we are. We all can be greater than we think we are. But it's a matter of raising the bar. Remember, if you shoot for the stars and you simply end up on the moon, you're still ahead of the game.
Right. So here we are in January, and it's the new year. And so if we're carrying on limiting core beliefs, then it's super important to start dismantling them before they limit you through the rest of the year. So this would be an excellent time to dismantle them and recode yourself with sustainable core beliefs.
And along those lines, the next question, the fifth one here of the 10 is, will you take a risk? Right? Now, we're not talking about jumping and the net will appear. We're taking a calculated risk because indecisiveness and apathy are a really habit of our culture. And that doesn't take any commitment at all. So the point is, are you committed to take a risk? Because that will, you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, it's not going to work either. We talked about try, well, I'm going to try. Well, try this for size. Stand up and have a pen or a pencil in your hand and just drop it in front of you. Now try and pick it up.
When I was working with smokers, I would always say to the person who was quitting smoking, well, trying doesn't work. Why don't you try to quit smoking? Because the minute you put the try word in there, that means that you are having a loophole out.
Yep.
You can't try. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it.
Yep, and there's maturity and courage that comes with making a commitment. So you know what? Zip it up in the front, have some courage, and make a commitment. Follow through with integrity. All right. So will you take a risk? Number 6, will you avoid pain and at what cost, right? We're either running away from pain or we're seeking pleasure. It's usually one or the other. So, life is too short and too full of potential to waste days in average experiences and meaningless interactions, okay? We all have disappointments and, we all have challenges, but, apathy is really lousy. The opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. Hate is actually an emotion you can deal with. Apathy, it's not. So the point is, we're going to go through some pain, but it's probably worth it at the other end, and going with gusto and some courage as opposed to just going through life and being apathetic. And
the more you work toward mental health, the more you will take risks in life, because you'll be hardier. You'll just want to get out there, and the failures will not have this major impact on your self-esteem and will not topple over your core belief. You can simply just experiment and expand, and what creates that, for those of you who are parents, what really creates a healthy human core is be there for your children. Be consistent, because if you be connected. Because if you do that, then you'll create an environment where your child can explore. And so, for those of you who are explorational in the way that you conduct your life, chances are that you had parents who were pillars for you and who stood next to you while you were venturing out in the world, and didn't create a world where you couldn't turn back to them and see that they were right behind you all along. And so understand that all of the behaviors that we want to manifest, that we're not able to manifest, all go back to that blueprint. And it's really, really important to address the blueprint, address the cause.
Here's one, and we talk about, Judy's going to talk about that in her book, so you have to stay tuned, and that is, will you allow anxiety to rule you? And we're going to be probably doing a show. Are we going to do that next week? Talking about anxiety?
On anxiety,
it's going to be a future show.
We are going to do anxiety in the next episode or two.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of anxious people out there, and they're anxious to hear about the show on anxiety, as I am.
You know what? Me too. So the point is, will you let bad experiences from the past ruin it for the good experiences ahead? I'd rather live life through a lens that sees the world as one that is beautiful and kind, instead of being a staple of constant defense layered with armor to protect me from what may or may not happen. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. We get what we expect, right?
Right, and it's impossible to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop when your initial blueprint was one of mistrust. If we don't pass the stage of trust on a basic level as individuals, it's really hard to do these things, Walt. It's just
impossible.
It's you could say to somebody, be positive, learn to look at life through these wonderful lenses. However, please understand that if your family of origin failed you, it's really hard to think that the other people out there in the world are going to be any better than that. So this is a whole reprocessing system.
Well, let me give you a really good example of commitment and trust. It just came to me, okay? All of us drive, hopefully, okay? And my question is, if you're going to drive to work tomorrow, or you're going to drive home tomorrow, are you going to wait for every single light to turn green on your route before you leave? Of course not. But you're going to trust, you're going to have faith, and you're committed because you want to get home. You want to get to work. So you're just going to start. And the point is, you're going to wait for you're going to hit a light, and it's going to change in green, and you'll continue to go. Maybe there's an accident, and you might have to take a different route. Again, you're committed to going home. So don't be anxious about the process, because it's going to change. Just start. And again, that's the bigger why than the how that we talked about earlier in the show. Right. Are you going to wait for every single light to be green before you start going work or go to your friend's house or go home? And therefore, just start on the journey, and you'll be amazed at, how did I get here? I don't know, but I started. I was committed. I wasn't anxious. I was working with faith. I was expecting good things, and here we are.
And the point about all lights being green, you don't have to feel that everything has to be known, because as one piece gets revealed, as one light turns green, then you get to have a little bit of a clear vision in terms of what your next step is.
And you might go around the bend or around the corner and see something
right.
like, oh, that's what that is.
Right. The paradigm shift doesn't have to happen in this one fell swoop kind of way. It can be just like, oh, I get it. Oh, wow, now I see something bigger, and now I see something even bigger, and it's very expansive.
Mm-hmm. Is your story serving you? Okay, remember, we're talking about, with something we all in common. Each of us have some form of vision of an imperfect childhood. Again, we've already talked about this, Hole in the Soul, part 1 of your life. So the question is, what is your part 2 going to look like? And that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
Is get connected and plugged in. Will you be a force of beauty? Okay, be beautiful. Be the person who acts with grace and integrity even when emotions are challenged. Make everything you touch beautiful. Again, it's a decision and a commitment. This is by putting your heart fully in how you do life, your relationships, your work, your hobbies. Approach life from a place of abundance versus a place of scarcity. Because there's abundance of everything out there. There really isn't lack. Turning on the news and watching all the garbage that's on the news, bad news sells. And, we're real prone to be drawn to that. And that's why they do that, is because they want us to watch it and buy the stuff that the advertisers are. So if you approach it from abundance, you approach it from beauty, and you know what? I'm not going to wait for this shoe to drop. You're going to be surprised. And lastly, love or fear. We talk about on this show that the most important and vital force in the universe is
unconditional love. And I really want to define that, because I've been challenged lately with, well, what's that mean, Dr. Judy, unconditional love? It just sounds so, new agey. But what I mean by unconditional love is to provide your children, I'm going to go back to childhood, provide your children with consistency, attunement, all of the elements that make for a healthy human psyche. Going back to attachment theory, what makes for a healthy human psyche, which defines unconditional love, is really being there for your child, putting your child's needs before your own. In a big picture way, what does unconditional love mean to anybody? It simply means that we have to manifest through the lens of trying to be the highest and the best individual that we can be, meaning we need to self-care, we need to care for others, and we have to understand that ultimately we are interconnected. Unconditional love means that if you hurt another person, it can reverberate, come back to you. So we share this planet, we share the air, we share everything. Unconditional love means that we are aware that this is part of a unit. It's a system, and we have to protect the system and understand that we're so much a part of it. We can't just say selfishly, well, I'm going to have this, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen to the other guy, because what happens to the other guy can be very well affecting us. It boomerangs back. Yep. Unconditional love is the totality of honoring the entire system, ultimately of the human race.
So, folks, that's pretty much our show. We finished with some questions you must ask yourself to maybe have a better year. And we have come to our segment of Shrinking That Tune. And this one's a fun song. It's Theo to lyrics. It's called Habits.
Right, and I just want to say something about this song. I love this song, and this is what happens when this is why we can't keep our New Year's resolutions, and these are New Year's resolutions gone wrong. That's why I picked it. Gone wrong.
So I'm going to read the lyrics, and Dr. Judy is going to interpret it for us through the mind map and her perspective. I eat my dinner in my bathtub. Then I go to sex clubs, watching freaky people get it on. It doesn't make me nervous. If anything, I'm restless. Yeah, I've been around and I've seen it all.
All right, so here's this lonely woman. She's all alone in her bathtub, and then, the hole in the soul. Ouch, it shows up. So what does she do to feel the hole in the soul? She goes to sex club.
She goes to a club.
Okay,
There you
let's
go.
go clubbing.
I get home, I got the munchies. Gee, I wonder why. Binge on all my Twinkies. Throw up in the tub. Gosh, she likes the tub a lot. Then I go to sleep, and I drank all my money, dazed and kind of lonely.
So she is trying to use every defense mechanism known to man: overeating, alcohol, okay, sex, every single, drugs, sex, rock and roll. There
Drugs,
it is.
Sex,
Right.
drugs, rock and
Right.
roll. There you go. You've gone and I gotta stay high all the time to keep you off my mind. Ooh, ooh. High all the time to keep you off my mind. Spend my days locked in a haze, trying to forget you, babe. I fall back down, gotta stay high all my life to forget I'm missing you.
So here's the abandonment. Here's the hole in the soul.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So in this case, obviously, she's referring to a lover. She's missing her lover. But the blueprint is that when we don't have the secure attachment with our caregivers, with our mothers, our fathers, our primaries, then we can't stand the idea of being disconnected from. So we've got to drug it over and stay high all the time so we don't feel the pain.
That's it. Pick up ditties at the playground. How I spend my daytime. Loosen up the frown. Make them feel alive. Oh, make it fast and greasy. I'm numb and way too easy.
Pick up daddies at the playground. What, do you think she has a little daddy issue here?
Who's your daddy?
Okay, so
Again,
she's numbing out.
Numbing out and
Just
escaping.
numbing out.
Yep. You're gone and I gotta stay. High all the time to keep you off my mind. High all the time to keep you off my mind.
Well, she certainly has a lot of ways to keep herself high.
Spend my days locked in a haze, trying to forget you, babe. I'll fall back down, gotta stay high all the time. Staying on the playground, staying in my play pretend, where the fun ain't gonna have no end. Can't go home alone again. Need someone to numb the pain.
So this person may want to try Sex and Love Alcoholics Anonymous, because she's now using people to try to numb the pain. And then when all else fails, right?
Yep. And then lastly, you're gone. I gotta stay high all the time to keep you off my mind. High all the time to keep my mind. Spend my days locked in a haze, trying to forget you, babe. Gotta stay high all my life to forget I'm missing you. So that's our song called Habits by Theo Yo Lyrics. And that's our show, Dr. Judy WTF. You can, again, pull us in the podcast on Stitcher, on your smartphone or on the internet, Stitcher.com, and, of course, iTunes, and, of course, the archive here at ubnradio.com as well. You can learn more about us at drjudywtf.com, and if you want to write us, we shrink any tunes that are requested, and if you have a query or question or a show you want us to do, write us at info@drjudywtf.com. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and you've been listening to Dr. Judy. We're going to next week probably touch on anxiety. She actually is an article that got published in an
anxiety.org.
Anxiety.org.
Go on my website, and it's right there in the blog section. You can read all about it. And, okay, you've got me convinced. Let's do our show on anxiety.
All righty.
Okay.
So stay tuned for more, and thanks for staying tuned today. God bless everyone.
God bless.